Welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly podcast featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 231, Grace and Gratitude. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm the host, and I'm here today in 818 Studios with my producer.
Good morning, everybody. This is Dave Croft, and welcome to another episode of the Authentic Spiritual Journey. As always, we welcome you to a brand new week here. Hope you are doing well. Ready for Thanksgiving at the end of the week. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for the turkey. I think I'm smoking a turkey this year. I think so.
You are. Nice.
Out on the kettle, on the Weber kettle. That'll be good. Because last year it was just me and Shannon, so I just did, the turkey breast. But I think we're gonna do the whole turkey, so it'll be fun.
Nice. Is it going to be family then?
It's
in town.
Well, it's just me, Shannon, and Judy. So Judy isn't traveling because Shannon's sister moved out to Oklahoma, and so they're not.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they're not close enough to drive.
They're not coming down. I know they used to come down so often.
Yeah.
I got to know them even.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's gonna be quiet, much quieter Christmas without a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old running around.
Well, you're not going to believe the next time you see them how much they've grown and matured. It happens so quickly,
The good news is that we FaceTime pretty regularly, and so hopefully that will bridge the gap somewhat. So
yeah. Well, we're having a really special time this year, and actually, family's coming here, which has never happened in my whole life.
Wow.
So that's a lot of fun. Yep, family's coming in. My sister and her husband are coming down and sharing with my family. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So there'll be that'll be a lot of fun. A lot of good food for sure, and definitely a lot of great music.
I was about to say, I know there's going to be some good music happening at your house.
Well, my brother-in-law just got a new instrument, and he's an accomplished musician. He's got a nice CD out, and so he's going to bring some new instruments. And when I asked him if I needed to rehearse any harmonies, because he's got a lot of great harmonies, or what did I need to work on for guitar, he's real Southern. He says to me, RCA, I don't even know what I'm doing now. How could I know what I'm doing on Thanksgiving? He's really brilliant, too. He's really brilliant. Yeah. If you talk to him or looked at him, one time somebody thought he was homeless because he had on his big raincoat, and he's got a long beard. Since he quit at the VA, he used to be a VA nurse or nurse at the VA for 30 years. He was a flight nurse, for the military. He's done a lot of great work helping people, in the military and then in the VA. Working as a nurse. And anyway, he's just really, really smart. But since he doesn't have to go to work, his beard has gotten so long in his hair. And it was raining, so he had this real long overcoat. And somebody said to my sister, "Who's that homeless man up there?" And she goes, "Well, that's my husband."
A message received. He might need a haircut.
Oh, no, he doesn't care.
Great.
But yeah, he's real talented, and that'll be fun to get together with him.
Absolutely.
So I got to get my guitar chops going and making sure I can keep up with him on guitar because he's super talented.
That's great.
Yep. So it should be a good Thanksgiving. And today's show is all about the spirit of it, really.
That's right. Today's topic is grace and gratitude. Grace and gratitude. What does it mean to be gracious?
Yeah. Yeah. And, one of the things I pride our show on is I think we're trying to bring back some of the sweetness of life. And part of that sweetness is meaningful friendships. It's talking about longtime connections. We often mention, people that either we're mentoring or that have mentored us. We talk about living from soul rather than just what we want. We talk about, the 3 things I often talk about is that we're here to grow, prosper, and evolve. So that said, there are aspects of the journey that I think get overlooked, especially by our current culture. And, I was listening to an old show, and I as I listened, I said, well, part of this sounds like a sales pitch. I want to work so hard to convince people that the spiritual journey is a good idea. And I realized probably everybody listening already knows that. And so what I want to do is just expand on what we're already doing, help us think a little bit more deeply about, well, what is grace and gratitude, and how might I move into more of that in my life and in my work even? Because I believe that whoever we are, we take everywhere we go. Like there's not a work self and a home self and here's how I am in the world. The truth is how we are one place is how we are every place mostly. There was a book years ago I loved. It's called How You Do Anything is How You Do Everything. And it's very true. And in my work, in my schooling to become an archetypal pattern analyst, one of the things I learned is that one snapshot of your life has a lot of information for how you do the rest of life. For instance, if you tend to be very organized and you tend to have things in place and in order, that tends to be how you are everywhere. You want things in order. So that's a real simple, benign aspect of what I'm talking about. But the deeper aspects of what I'm speaking of are how are we relating to ourselves and therefore to our world? Because how we love ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, is how we love in the world. This topic today touches a little on the love languages, I'm realizing.
Yeah, of course, we did an episode on the love languages.
Yeah, we did an episode on the love languages, and that'll be in the show notes, so you can go click on that one if you like. But the book by Dr. Gary Chapman is wonderful because it talks about the 5 basic ways that we like to give and receive love. And what is so interesting is that how you give love is how you want to receive love. We have a primary love language. And it does play a part a little bit in what we're going to say today in grace and gratitude, because I think we make assumptions about people around us, people we love, and we think we know what is grace and gratitude to them. And it might be something very different, right? Because of how they like to give and receive love. So the 5 love languages, I'll briefly mention them here. I think I've got them all in my mind. One is the gift of time, physical touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, and giving of gifts. Is that the way it's worded, Dave?
Yeah. It's affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch.
Yeah. That's a good one. Those are so good, and really good to keep in mind. If you haven't ever looked into the love languages, it's a lot of fun to do with people you care about. Because I had this friend that she's very brilliant. I don't know how many college degrees she has, and I was telling her about the love languages, and she thought, "Oh, this is pop psychology. There's nothing to this." And I said, "Oh, there's nothing to it. Well, let's have you take the inventory." And I had her take the inventory. And at the end of it, I said, "Oh, so basically you don't care if you see your husband for the next 6 months?" And she goes, "That's right. I love him to death, but I don't experience love for my husband this time." I said, "But let me say this. You love when your husband does things for you." "Oh, when he does things for me, I know he loves me." I said, "Well, that's called acts of service." And she goes, "Well, there may be something to this after all." So I said, it doesn't come from Carl Jung, but it doesn't mean there's not value, So coming into the holidays, we've talked about this, remember, surviving, what was that title, Dave? I can't remember.
It was surviving the holidays with your family, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, I know what it was. Hold on.
Yeah, it was
surviving the holidays with difficult family members.
There it is.
Well, and today is about grace and gratitude. So it's an extension. Each show really does build on the one before. And something I see that is missing in our current culture is grace. And certainly gratitude, but grace, or we were taught growing up, the word was graciousness. That's a word I haven't even heard spoken in 20 years, I don't think. In the outside world. But graciousness is a quality of being. It's both, to me, an acknowledgement, a help, a support, that isn't asked for, but needed and welcomed. Yeah. It's when you hold the door open for somebody that you see their arms are full coming out of the store. It's listening well when someone speaks, even if you don't love every word they're saying. There's a graciousness about it. There's space that you're giving to someone else. And so graciousness requires coming out of yourself a little bit. Like, not everything is about you. Not everything is about what you want and need. Graciousness says, I'm good in myself, so I'm going to make space for you. And graciousness, when I was growing up, was taught. It was an aspect of life. Now, having said that, I know everyone wasn't taught that. But it was pretty common in the South where I grew up that you just had to have graciousness for another. You honored your neighbors. You honored people that voted differently than you. As a matter of fact, when I was growing up, you didn't even know who voted what. You were friends, and it was not considered gracious to ask someone their political affiliation.
Yeah, I was going to say, you didn't really talk about it. It was rude to ask somebody what they voted for, almost like asking someone, how much money they make,
It was non-gracious.
Yep.
So one did not do it. So the idea is you were trying to make the other feel comfortable so you would not put them in a position to be held separate from you. You would do everything to make company feel welcomed. And that's graciousness. Yeah, that's graciousness. So, if you have people coming for the holidays, an act of graciousness is finding out what's their special brand of coffee or milk. What's their special meal that they love to have when they get up in the morning? That's in the spiritual gifts, that's called the gift of hospitality, right?
Yeah.
So, and some people just don't have it, right? So you have to work a little harder at it. So if it's not your gift, you may have to say, I don't know what you need here. Can you just make me a list and I'll get it? But I guarantee you it'll be experienced as a graciousness from the other end. So how is this landing with you? I feel like today we're in a little bit of a conversation, even though I can't hear your answer. Like, what might you do during this holiday season that brings graciousness into the mix? A thing I'm doing this year for Thanksgiving that I haven't done for some time is everyone who's coming is going to get a special thought of gift at their place. And we'll be eating outside, on the pool deck. So it'll be really nice. But I thought, how special would that be? Because for me, Thanksgiving is about connection. It's about acknowledgement. It's about gratitude. And acts of graciousness really show all of that in actions, right? And in our texting culture, a thumbs up is not the same as a real thank you.
Yeah.
All right. A thumbs up is not a gracious thank you. So everybody knows I can go off on this technology bent as much as I love it and as much as it supports my life. But, another great idea for Thanksgiving is to write everyone a special note of gratitude and just, tuck it in their purse as they're leaving or hand it to them as they're going out the door. Thank you so much for being here today. So there's no, you're not making them feel uncomfortable. They can read it later as they're ready. Just a little touch of, there was a family friend we had. I say family friend. We called her Aunt. That's how close of a family friend. Her husband had been my dad's sergeant in the military, and we had stayed in touch with them my whole life until they both passed. But every time I left her house, I would always leave a note on the bed of gratitude. We were just taught that these were family and you be kind to them. They've helped our family. They've been better than family, at times. And so every time I left, I always left a little note on the bed. I would buy really nice stationery and leave a little note. So Aunt Lillian and I were close until she passed. It's like that one little act of graciousness kept us connected over the years. Of course, it didn't hurt that every time I was home from college, I would drive down to Florida to see her and take my mom to see her. And then when I moved to Florida and she got to know Joshua, that was a pretty amazing coming around of all those years of her love for me and my love for her, because she got to experience my son, which is my greatest gift, right? So that he got to know someone from my childhood was pretty amazing, because, I don't live where I grew up the way some people do, the way most Southerners do. Yeah. So think about that. Where is graciousness showing up in your life? Like, how could you be more about it? And I know as you're hearing this, you're thinking, this is a good idea. I'm not questioning, is graciousness a good idea? I know you're not questioning it. The question will be, how does it want to manifest in and through you to bless your life and the people around you? And, I talk so much about prosperity and even gratitude as, that you give knowing that you'll receive, because that's how the law is. And in today's culture, sometimes those are things I say to help get people's attention. But the truth is, if we're really being gracious and we're really being grateful, we're doing so because it's the right thing to do, not because of what we'll get in return. And the reason I talk about what we get in return, again, just keep this in mind, is that is how the law works. There's a organization I give to often. And when I give, I get the most beautiful handwritten letter that I've ever received. Everyone seems to be, better than the last. And it's interesting that in this day and age where everything has moved so quickly, that a simple cash or check gift is responded to with a note is so special. So it is an act of graciousness on his part, and it keeps me, number one, wanting to give, and it also gives me a feeling of connection with him. So I just see the benefits of it are so far-reaching that it's one of those things. Without that in life just wouldn't be very much fun without a good dose of graciousness, because inherent in graciousness is gratitude. And so a lot of times when I talk about gratitude, I'm talking about giving thanks. I'll say, do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you'll start seeing more goodness in your life, and you will. But I wanted to come at this from a slightly different perspective, because this act of graciousness, this grace, which, often spiritually is talked about, help from God, right? Grace from God, kind of this unseen help. Well, that's what we're here to embody, for others. So this idea that graciousness is an important aspect to bring back. I think with a lot of our quote unquote progress in our culture today, some of the most meaningful things are being left out or missed that are meaningful to me. I'll just own that. Graciousness is one of them. Kindness, yes, but graciousness to me involves more than kindness. There's almost forgiveness inherent in graciousness, because it's like you don't have to prove to me you agree with me for me to be gracious. And a lot of times now people say be kind, and they wear t-shirts that say be kind, and then they turn around and just vilify other people. That's not true kindness. That's like cliquey weirdness. Graciousness has room for more. When this is one of the things my parents taught me so well. Any given day at our home growing up, there could be very successful businessmen. There was a guy from New York that would come. He sold my dad diamonds. My dad was a jeweler. His name was Nick Van Ingle, and he would always wear these long overcoats, and he would hide his stones. He had, because of being in New York, he had all these hidden pockets in his coat, so he'd never carry a bag. There was nothing to steal. It would always be honest person. So anyway, Nick Van Ingle, who would sit there and smoke big cigars with my dad and was, I'm sure, a millionaire many times over. Great guy, great laugh, quick to laugh, kind to us. Any given day we'd have him or my friend, Mr. Willie, who was my dad's best friend, who often was working at the house, helping my dad on a project, to somebody walking down the street my dad was helping getting a job. So we really learned that everyone had value. It was probably the number one value I learned. Everyone has value. And that there was some idea of graciousness available to everyone. And that if you were in our home, you were our guest, and we were to make you feel comfortable, not to challenge you, not to agree with everything we said, not to like everything in the house, not to compliment us so we felt good. But we were just always offering up ourselves and our home for other people, food and coffee and helping our neighbor who was a German lady who maybe couldn't buy things, but we would help her and she would pay us back with greens and vegetables from her garden. That idea of graciousness is what I would love to see more of. And it's really interesting because I'm seeing it recently in very young people in their 20s. It's been really beautiful. There's a coffee shop I frequent called Lineage, and there are a lot of great people there. And every time I see them, they ask me, "Am I going to Tampa today?" They know my whole schedule. They wish me well, safe drive, all those kind of things. But of course, I'm getting to know them as well, and I have graciousness for them. And it was just really sweet. The other day I was buying beans in there, and they said, it's it's Customer Appreciation Day. Here are the beans, or one day, here's your coffee. And then the next day, here's another coffee. I said, at some point, you guys got to take my money here. I'm just going to put a bunch in the tip jar. And, but it was this feeling of graciousness. And they're all youngsters in their 20s, early 30s. Just a spirit of graciousness and generosity. And it, of course, they're wildly successful. When you have that as your base energy, and the owners are really, really sweet as well. So I don't know if you're thinking about this, friends, like even in your work, is there a way you could provide a level of graciousness to your customers, to your client base, that would be something extra? It would be a little bit of an extension of yourself. And that's what I think graciousness is. It's a little bit extending yourself for the sake of the others, personal comfort, and maybe even emotional comfort. And if it's me showing up, it's food. The Anderson love language is food and coffee. Yeah. So think about that. I think gratitude is inherent in graciousness. I really, really do. So what will you do this holiday season that's going to bring more of that into your life and into your work? If you go to a store, can you let the person with one thing go in front of you? That's a graciousness. Can you pay for the person behind you in line? I know Dave does this at Starbucks or Dunkin' or whatever. Can you just, give a little bit of yourself? I thought, I always think of spiritual teachings. Like, what if everybody on one day in the city of Orlando, in the state where you live, in the country where you live? What if everybody for one day decided to be gracious? What would change? I think if we just had one practice that we put in on a regular basis, how could the world be better because of us? Because friends, that's what we're here to do. Because all we see on the news is the opposite of that. And it's easy to get wrapped up in that. And this is going to sound probably funny, but I was at a UCF game the other day. And at the game, it was really interesting. There was a lot of us sitting there, and old, young, black, white. All anybody cares about is football. There's no racial conversation going on. There's no a disagreement over anything. And I was looking around the stadium. All you could hear is UCF. No, not, oh, you're different than me, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, here we are all excited about football. And if that attitude could just extend past the stadium, then all would be well. And I just sincerely wonder. I sincerely wonder if we quit hearing how bad everything was, would we tend more toward that type of attitude in the rest of life? Because I think we see one thing or one group, and then we make up a whole story and idea about it that may, in fact, not be true. There's no graciousness around these stories. It's like something happens. We say, oh, the world's falling apart, and we shut down, and there's no more curiosity about what's really going on. Suddenly a decision has been made, and one is right and one is wrong. So graciousness blows that apart. That's what I'm saying. Graciousness blows that apart and says, there may be something here where we could actually talk and learn and grow together in the midst of this. That's graciousness. That's graciousness. For how that's shown up in my parenting, my son is now 15 and super, super busy and doing a lot of great stuff. I mean, he's just an amazing kiddo. Well, sometimes stuff doesn't get done around the house, as you might imagine. Imagine a teenager, right, not doing everything perfectly around the house. And the other day he was having a really busy week, and I went into his room. I don't know, I took some clean clothes in there or something, and his room looked like a tornado hit it. I mean, there was stuff strewn everywhere. And I thought, my God, he has been busy this week. I mean, he actually keeps things fairly orderly, believe it or not, for a 15-year-old. And so I went in his room and I thought, you know what, I'm going to clean this up for him. So when he comes home, it feels really good. And I didn't go through, I'm not the type of mom that's going to go through his journal or anything, but it was just straightening things. I made his bed. And then I thought, you know what? I think what I'm going to do is, he loves to have really good water. Like, he researches water. And so he has a little bedside table, and I put it, you know how in a hotel they like line them up a certain way underneath and put them in like a triangle shape, 3 little bottles of water. And so when he came home, I heard him go, whoa. He goes, Mama, was a cleaning lady here?
Gave him some hotel service there.
Yeah. It was a cleaning lady here. I said, no, I did that. And he goes, you did? I said, well, you've been working really hard. And I thought it'd be nice to come home to a nice environment in your room. And you go in there, do whatever you need. I know you got a lot of study and friend connections. He's at that age where everything is about friends and all that. And I'm like, yeah, do your thing. I just wanted you to feel like I thought about you. He goes, I do. It's so funny that little act of graciousness really meant a lot. Mm-hmm. And when I first saw the room, what I wanted to do is, nail him for keeping it such a mess. And I thought, well, he seems to be okay with it. So, excuse me, it is his room. There's times my room's a mess. So, life happens.
Yeah.
And I noticed too the rest of the week what happened is, well, the room was kept nicer because why? Well, it had been picked up and he had seen and felt what that order felt like. So sometimes as parents, I think we can be a little rough, like, pick this up, pick that up, blah, blah, blah. And there's times, I can be that way. But it was like, this kid is making straight A's. He's getting in these he's doing so well in everything. Let me just give him a little extra support. It didn't cost anything, and it was a connection for us, and it was an act of graciousness. No big deal. And that's what I love about it. It just is a little extension, and I felt better about myself for doing it. So it didn't cost me anything. Emotionally, financially, it took about 15 minutes of my time. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And who knows how that's going to, the return on investment that you're going to receive from Josh. You're already seeing the returns on your parenting approach. All you got to do is meet the kid. You'll know instantly.
Oh, exactly. Oh, yes. I've had people say, oh, you're crazy, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Well, proof's in the pudding, as they say, dear friends. Yeah. So I've created an environment of safety, of truth-telling, of support. Yep. Yeah, his teachers, when I sit down for a parent-teacher conference, they all get this look on their face, and I go, is everything okay? And then they start crying and go, what an amazing kid. I'm like, okay. I was just making sure. I thought they were going to tell me something weird. And because of the look on their face, and they just were trying not to cry.
Right.
Excuse me, when talking about him. But yeah, he's an amazing young man with a lot going on. And his graciousness is pretty amazing as well. Why? Because that's what's been modeled.
Yep.
He knew this has happened a few months ago. I'd had a really big day big week, and I had all this laundry piled up, and I came home and he did the laundry, just folded it up and left it all sitting there. I don't know any teenager that would do that without being asked. And, like I say, he has his moments certainly where it's like, okay, we're going to have a conversation about your chores because I'm about to blow my top and, well, it's against our family code. So let's have a conversation.
Right. Because he is still a 15-year-old kid.
Exactly. And I want him to get to be a kid. Right. I want him to get to experience all that. And he certainly is. And I'm very proud of him. Yeah. So think about, I hope, friends, as I'm talking about all this, I just didn't want to rush this topic. I wanted you to have space to think as I'm talking about, like what do I want to do this holiday, what do I want to do this holiday to bring in a little more of this? I guarantee you the people around you are going to appreciate it. And I know it'll make you feel better about yourself because of the way you're carrying yourself in the world. And a little self-dignity, wow, is worth a lot. It really is worth a lot. It says to you, it says to the universe, I am worthy.
That's right.
I am worthy. Yeah. So, friends, we sincerely hope you have a beautiful, beautiful Thanksgiving if you're living in the U.S. I know if you're around the world, you're going, what is all this about? Well, it's a holiday we celebrate here in the U.S., but graciousness and gratitude are always beautiful to share, no matter where you are or where you may be living. So we sincerely hope you feel supported by today's show. We're always honored and blessed to have you along the journey. We're also grateful for the financial support, and our, financial campaign is kicking off. And I love that you're a part of it. I love that you support us. We're grateful, dear friend, for all the financial support that we receive. And we see you blessed and supported during this special holiday season. So we look forward to seeing you next week, and blessings on the journey, dear friend.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Authentic Spiritual Journey here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2022, Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Thank you for listening to the show today, dear friends. I'm always happy to have you along the journey. If you're seeking deeper work, though, I'm going to invite you into one-on-one coaching with me. In my coaching work, I get to glean from my over 30 years of experience of working with individuals and leaders in the community on their spiritual journey. So I have a wealth of information that will help you along the journey, and it will be supportive. It will be supportive of your dreams, goals, and desires, but it will also be confrontive, because I am going to help you confront those limiting patterns and beliefs and help you break through those aspects and move into looking at life in a more holistic way. So even though it will be confrontive and at times even challenging, you will learn to grow, you will learn to prosper, and you will evolve into the person you have always wanted to be. Friends, the answers lie within you, and I am so honored to help empower you to live that truth and that goodness in the world. If you want to learn more about coaching with me, simply go to CynthiaAliceAnderson.com and go to the coaching section for more information. That's CynthiaAliceAnderson.com and go to coaching, and I'll be happy to set up a one-on-one call so we can discuss how I can best support your journey. Thanks again for joining me today, dear friend, and blessings on the journey.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The Soulworks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. Soulworks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the Soulworks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.